So I just shot this entire video and went to go edit it and realized that I didn't have my mic plugged in. This night is just frustrating. Yeah.
Woohoo! We are in a week. Yeah. Can't get any better.
Hello, welcome to Hawks Recap. Game number 3, take 2 for me. Hawks lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs in overtime by a score of 4-3. This is the Hawks' first loss on the season. Frustrating game for sure, especially blowing two-goal leads. But we knew it was going to be a battle. It was a marquee matchup, especially with how well both these teams started out the year. Both teams coming into the game 2-0. Both teams scoring 15 goals total in their first 2 games. We knew this was going to be a test because this was the Hawks' first away game. This was the Hawks' first time playing a team not on the back end of a back-to-back. First time playing a team who's starting their number 1 goaltender from the beginning of the game. We also have our backup goaltender in for the first time. Forsberg's in net for us. He came over from Columbus with that trade that involves Saad and Panarin and Tyler Mott. First time we get to see him in regular season action. He looked great in the preseason, but preseason is preseason for a reason. Time to show up in the regular season when it really counts and try and fill those big shoes that are left from Darling departing to Carolina this offseason. The game starts off pretty darn good for the Hawks. The Maple Leafs and the Hawks are kind of going back and forth. Both offenses are kind of testing each other's defense. The Hawks defense seems to be matching up all right, seems to be shutting them down, not letting them get too much pressure. Hawks get into the zone. Hayden goes in with not a whole lot of help. Gets that initial zone entry, which will turn out to be really important. The puck gets behind the goal line. John Ruda ends up getting it. Takes it out front, kind of sends it cross crease there, but it hits off a Maple Leaf stick. I forget who exactly it was, but it surprises and gets past Anderson, and all of a sudden the Hawks are up 1 goal less than 4 minutes into this game. After that goal, the Hawks continue to keep the Maple Leafs high-flying, scoring offense at bay. Defense is playing pretty well, not really letting them get too many high-scoring chances. Most of the Maple Leaf shots are coming from the outside. Forsberg's making saves when he needs to, looking pretty good, and all of a sudden the Blackhawks come on a forecheck. Anderson loses his stick. The puck gets to Brandon Saad. It actually hits Anderson's stick. Saad gets it to Panik, who takes it to the net, gets it on Anderson's pads. It bounces out. Taves pounces on it and chips it up over Anderson, and the Hawks have a 2-goal lead. We're not even halfway through this first period. This is looking like another great start and looking like another high-scoring game for the Hawks. The Hawks seem to be employing a really nice strategy so far this season, getting 2 goals in each of the first 3 games in the first period, getting out to hot starts, getting teams on their heels a bit, at least on the scoreboard. If you continue to do that throughout the season, good things are going to happen. I don't think it's necessarily going to continue the entire season, but I will take this little trend for as long as it lasts. Maple Leafs would have a lot of good chances later on in the period. The Hawks had some good chances as well, but Forsberg stones them. And the Hawks go into the break with a 2-goal lead, and things are feeling pretty darn good. Now, I've said this cliche a couple of times already, and I'll say it again, not because I necessarily want to, but because I gotta keep reminding myself, and perhaps reminding you, even though you probably don't need to be reminded this many times, that hockey games are not won in the first period. It's a cliche for a reason, because it's true. We know this Maple Leafs team is going to have its chances. We know with a backup in net that we got to try and contain it as much as possible. we cannot rest on our laurels here. We have to keep going. We have to keep fighting. We have to try and score some more goals. Now the second period has started, and I'm sure by now you've noticed what I've kind of written here on the board behind me. That has nothing to do with the outcome of this game. That has nothing to do with determining this game. I say it because the second period featured 8 penalties, 4 on the Hawks, 4 on the Leafs. This was the first Hawks game where the refs were noticeable. The first time we've seen these emphasized slashing penalties really get called. First time the refs kind of really imposed their will. I'm not sure if it's anything in terms of the Hawks changing the way they played compared to the first 2 games, or if it was just the refs being in Toronto near the league offices. I don't know, but there was a lot of penalties in this second period, and even though it really didn't benefit any team, it definitely disrupted the flow of the game a little bit. And honestly, it probably disrupted the Leafs a little bit more than the Hawks, because the Leafs came out in the second period and they started to kind of wear down the Hawks defense with their speed. You could tell the Hawks were struggling a little bit starting in that second period. And the penalties really kind of negated the effects of that. The only goal of the second period would come about halfway through. The Leafs would get some really good zone time. The Hawks just couldn't find a way to get the puck out. That would become a theme in the second half of this ball game. The puck would then find its way to Zaitsev, who lost himself behind Kane. Forsberg actually slides himself into pretty good position to see this puck, has a good angle on the shot, but he seems to be kind of stuck in between either going down into butterfly or a hugging the post type of technique. There's a lot of space in the 5 hole. Zaitsev finds it, and the Leafs cut the lead to 1 goal. There's a little bit of a soft goal for Forsberg to give up there. However, Forsberg had played brilliantly up to that point, and it's kind of just one of those things where it's a backup goalie, and soft ones are probably going to get in from time to time. You just got to shake it off and keep going. Thankfully, the Hawks find a way to keep the Leafs off the score sheet for the rest of the period, and the Hawks take a 2-1 lead into the third period. The third period starts, and the Leafs come out strong again. The Hawks are a bit on their heels for a second straight period here. But they find the way to get the puck in, get a forecheck going here. Sharp passes it down to DeBrincat, but it misses him, goes along the boards. Meanwhile, DeBrincat gets crushed by Borgman. Borgman gets called for interference. This is the first large hit on DeBrincat in his young NHL career. He has shown a lot of skill so far, but he hasn't really gotten his bell rung. And bell rung isn't quite the right term to use here. That kind of implies a hit to the head, but when you're 5'6", you're going to get hit in the head by the guy's hip. He's a little slow to get up, but he ends up being fine. You kind of wonder how it's going to affect him after this. Is he going to be a little bit more hesitant going in for hits or pucks or whatever? He's already thrown some hits early on this season, but he hasn't really gotten hits. So these kind of things affect players differently, especially when you're very, very outmatched in terms of height and size. But he seems to be fine. He didn't really seem to be affected all that much. He had some really good plays after this in terms of puck movement and puck control. So that was really nice to see. In addition to that, on the ensuing power play, Forsling gets the puck at the point. He rips a one-timer about 5 feet wide of the net. But he must have gotten good grades in geometry class, because that puck hits at the perfect angle off the end boards, comes right out the other side to Panic, and Panic gets it by Anderson, and the Hawks have a 2-goal lead once again, and you were kind of thinking, we might just steal this. We might just get away with robbery here in this game. But it seems like Sherlock Holmes is on the case, because the Leafs get the puck in the offensive zone. 7 minutes left in the game. We have the numbers with the board battle that is happening. We have about 3 Hawks to about 2 Leafs, but somehow the puck comes out, finds the Leafs. It gets to Zaitsev. Zaitsev finds Brown in the slot. Forsberg kind of gets lost in a screen there. He doesn't have a good angle, doesn't really see the puck, and Connor Brown finds the wide open side of the net, and all of a sudden it's down to a 1-goal game once again. And we're just hoping that maybe we can hold on to a victory here. Nope! John Ruda gets called for slashing, and the Maple Leafs go on the power play. They draw up a play to shoot the puck off James Van Riemsdyk's skate and in past Forsberg's 5-hole. The game is tied up at 3. Both teams had pretty darn good penalty kill units in this game. Both teams only scored 1 goal on the power play. Special teams really weren't the factor in this game, but at this point, with a little over 4 minutes to play, we're kind of thinking, all right, maybe we can hold on and force an overtime here. Thankfully, we did. Now, things might change. I mean, we got Kane, we have Taves, we have some clutch players on our team. We can get a bounce or something. We haven't really been controlling play, but things can change. It only takes 1 bounce. Nothing really changes. The Leafs continue to control play. They get a couple of great on-man rushes for them, but Forsberg stands tall, makes some nice saves, and we're now thinking, okay, maybe we can get this into a shootout where Kane can work some magic and we can steal a victory there. Nope! Austin Matthews decides that him and his fellow youngins are up way past their bedtime and decides to end it early with a blast over Forsberg's shoulder, top shelf into the net. He even does Kane's celebration, that cheeky fella. And the Hawks blow two 2-goal leads in this one and lose to the Leafs by a final score of 4-3. They do pick up the loser point. And I'm going to count this as a half win because I want to stay positive. This was a really good test for the Hawks, especially against a high-flying, fast Maple Leafs offensive team. Some really good talent on that team. Reminds me a lot of the high-flying Blackhawks from a couple years ago. It's a dangerous team. We had Forsberg back up in net who played really well even though he gave up 4 goals. He made a number of great saves. It could have easily been 6 or 7 goals against. He played well, I thought. I think we have a decent backup once again this year. With that said, obviously there are room for improvements. We got to keep working. It's early in the season, but we got to remember that games this early on mean just as much as games later on in the season. So we got to keep working, got to keep trying to get these points, grinding games out. This one doesn't quite go in our favor, but we got to flush it pretty quickly. We got Montreal right on the docket right away, back end of back-to-back. We got Crow starting, so maybe he can help us secure 2 points and come away from this Canada trip with 3 points. That would be absolutely fantastic in my book. Now, before I wrap this video up, I do want to point something out. Before the game, I tossed a little tweet towards Steve Dangle. He does these types of videos, but for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's quite popular in the hockey universe and is someone who I draw a lot of inspiration from for these videos. But anyhow, I sent a little tweet his way. I said, hey, Steve Dangle, you up for a bet on tonight's game? ? Loser donates $20 to the charity of the winner's choice. He didn't respond. I didn't really expect him to. I mean, I wouldn't in his shoes either. He probably doesn't even know I exist. He probably gets tons of tweets that he has to rummage through anyhow, so he probably didn't even see it, honestly. But I am still willing to uphold my end of this little bet that was never agreed to. So, Steve, if you are watching this or reading this or just catching wind somehow of this, let me know of a charity so I can donate $20 and uphold my end of this bet. I have $20 US, which are pretty good up in your neck of the woods. So let me know, hit me up, let's make this happen. All right, now I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, at least more than the result of this game. Let me know your thoughts of the game and the team down below in the comments. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on these videos. I'm always looking for ways to improve, so hit me up in that regard. I know this night was disappointing, but we got to flush. You got to get ready for the next one because it's coming up quickly here. Stay safe, make good decisions, and I will see you again real soon.